Hello everyone, welcome to my channel and to another video. So in the previous video I promised that I would post something about a Latino forum that Nina Turner participated in, and now I have found a video for that. So here it is. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you subscribe to my channel, help it grow, and enjoy.
Nina Turner. Hi, how are you doing?
Hi, Marissa. Fine. How are you?
I'm doing well. Did you get some of the storms that we were just talking about? Did you see any?
Yes, absolutely. I did.
Yeah, our crews. I was out driving around today. Felt like a hurricane.
Yes, it did.
Bit.
Visual probably from the storms that are happening across the country.
Yeah, most definitely, most definitely. So let's ask you. 2 minutes for each question that we're going to ask you. First one is, please introduce yourself and why you're running for Congress.
Well, thank you so much, and for the hosting organizations. It's really really good to be here with you all. I'm running to help change the material conditions of the people in the 11th Congressional District. I do firmly believe that the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class in this district, in this state, in this nation deserve better. I have experience on both the local, state, and national levels. In terms of my local, I was a Cleveland City Councilwoman, so shout out to Councilwoman Santana. I was a councilwoman in the city of Cleveland. I served this half of the 11th Congressional District as a state senator in the 25th Senate District. I ran for Secretary of State in 2014. I worked side by side with Chairman David Pepper for the Democratic Party. And twice I was on a presidential campaign with Senator Bernie Sanders, both in 2016 and also 2020, serving as a national co-chair. And then let me go back locally, I also work for Mayor Michael R. White. And so I'm running to really leverage the relationships and the experiences that I have for this district to lift all people. I am running because I believe that all people deserve dignity in their life, dignity in their work. And it is very obvious that the system is rigged, and it needs to be unrigged, if you will, to bend towards the will of the people who need the most help. I will continue to stand, as I always have stood, both as an elected official and also in my activist work, for the least of these, our sisters and brothers and family and friends, to ensure that people are not just surviving every single day, that they absolutely get a chance to thrive in their lifetime. That is vitally important, and I believe that in the wealthiest country on the face of the earth, we can make those types of insurances politically, socially, economically, environmentally, and racially.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to ask you now, next question. You just talked about how your experience in serving in the greater Cleveland area and half of the 11th Congressional District. We just heard from some of the previous candidates about their, resume, what they've done here. Some of whom were, say they're attorneys. Other people were attorneys who've represented before, as well as, previous council members. So tell us why you're the best candidate to represent Latinos within the 11th Congressional District. What sets you apart?
Yeah, well, even in my work as a state senator, being an ally and in some cases a co-conspirator, or as one of my colleagues would say, an ally and an advocate. Some folks that are with us, Marissa, today may remember in 2010 in Arizona, it was show your papers movement because of this sheriff. And I worked with the Latino community here to bring African-American community and Latino community members together to work in solidarity to push back against that kind of rhetoric. Now, even though it was happening in Arizona, I do firmly believe that what happens over there happens over here, that in the words of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., that what affects one directly affects us all indirectly. I also worked with an organization, I believe it's called OLA, and Veronica was the executive director of that. I'm blanking on Veronica's last name right now, but there were lots of raids going on in Ohio, in Ashtabula, and also Lake counties. And so I partnered with OLA, went into Lake County to be helpful in terms of organizing and helping the Latino community organize and bump back against this racial injustice. And then when I was on the insurance committee, just one more example, there was a bill that was penetrating the legislature at the time where one of my Republican colleagues decided that they wanted to try to pass a bill that would not pay workman comp benefits to immigrant workers, not hold the employers accountable, but only hold undocumented immigrant workers accountable. And I bumped back against that bill as well. And so I have both a robust activist record and also a legislative record in standing side by side in allyship and also co-conspiratorship with the Latino community, and I will continue to do that.
Okay, I'm going to put some of these questions that are all the same for all the candidates kind of out of order here, since of the way you just ended that response right there. So we're talking about the pathway to citizenship. Talk to us about, if elected and given the opportunity, would you vote for legislation that would create a pathway to citizenship without throwing other migrant communities under the bus? If so, why? If not, why?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that there are bills percolating right now. I believe the House of Representatives has already passed a very robust bill with an 8-year plan for citizenship. We have to make sure that we take care of Doc. I know there are 11 million undocumented folks in this country right now, and we definitely have to do something and make sure that it is very humane. Also, to do away with private detention centers in the same way that I believe that there should not be private prisons in the United States of America. They should not be private detention centers. No corporation should be able to make profit off of other people's misery. Everything that we do in terms of immigration reform, and the can has been kicked down the road by many administrations, both Republican and Democrat. It is time for our nation to do the right thing, to have comprehensive immigration reform, and make sure that that reform is in line, that we put our principles in practice as we do so.
Okay. Thank you. Next question for you. Talking about the right to vote. It's, considering the special election and every election that's to come, there's a lot of kind of tension revolving around that. So I want to ask you what steps you're going to take to ensure equity and voting rights specifically for Hispanics and Latinos.
Well, certainly believe in the John Lewis Act, again, passed the House. Over there in the Senate, we got to do something about the filibuster, and also for the People Act. The Supreme Court has taken us backwards. They doubled down on Shelby v. Holder, and the Congress has absolutely the authority to undo by law what the Supreme Court has done. Voting is a precious right. It is really one of the greatest equalizers that we have in this nation, and so we have to make sure that we ensure. That is one of the reasons why I did run for Secretary of State in 2014. We had one of the worst Secretaries of State in the country, and I sacrificed running for my last term in the Senate to be the Democratic nominee, to both push for expanding and protecting access to the ballot box. I will continue to do that if I am elected to this seat. It is vitally important. And unfortunately, Marissa, right here in Ohio, which I'm sure you know, and probably many people with us this evening know too, that Ohio is among those 47 states that's debating. Some states have already passed, but Ohio is still debating a voter bill that will really take us back. We have to focus not only what happens in the Congress, but also what happens in state legislatures all across this country, because they are undoing a lot of rights that we have fought for. And so we need to also pay attention to who's running for those offices and show up and vote in those elections as well.
Okay, thank you. One following question for you here. We're talking about the size of the Puerto Rican community as well as resources. I'm sure you've heard this question now, because we're asking all the candidates the same question. But after the Hurricane Maria in 2017, a lot of Puerto Ricans came specifically to Cleveland, Ohio. There was a language barrier. Resources were not only outdated, but they were overwhelmed. So talk to me about, based on those facts, what resources would you advocate for on behalf of the growing Puerto Rican community, as well as those who are bilingual?
Well, definitely we need local, regional, state, and federal dollars to help deal with this in a very communal way that uplifts the Hispanic community, but you specifically named the Puerto Rican community. I will tell you that when Hurricane Maria hit, I called one of my dear friends, Mayor Carmen Yulene Cruz, at the time to check on her, because she was the mayor of San Juan, and I knew that she had a lot on her plate, and then also having to deal with a president that absolutely did not give a care, I'll keep it PG, about the people in Puerto Rico. And so I do believe that there should be more federal funding to help civic-based organizations and also faith-based organizations that are doing the great and deep-seated community work in ensuring that folks have what they need educationally, socially, economically, just the whole wraparound service. Increasing access to jobs and resources are so vitally important. When we strengthen one community, we really strengthen all communities. And again, I will continue to be an ally and also a co-conspirator, as I have in the past. I will continue to do that if I am blessed enough to be the Congresswoman of the 11th Congressional District.
Okay, great. And just as we did with a previous candidate, I want to ask you some. I've been timing your questions here, and we've got a little bit of extra time. So there's a follow-up question I have. You just mentioned, maintaining and also being involved, making sure that who you believe is the correct representative for at the state level. So tell me, after your experience already here in Cleveland, how do you plan to continue working with constituents who are Latino, making sure that they're not only accurately represented and their needs are being met here locally at the city, county level, the district level, but also at the federal level and the state level while maintaining your, fair jurisdiction?
Yeah, well, certainly for me, in terms of hiring people, I want to make sure that those who work for me in my office, both in DC and also in the district, reflect the diversity in our community. And I would definitely have a liaison to the Hispanic community, having community meetings on a regular basis, as I did as both a Cleveland City Councilwoman and also a member of the state Senate. And also, I would like to see the delegation, particularly the Democratic delegation. And God knows if we had reasonable Republicans, I wouldn't leave them out either, because I do believe that as we are trying to lift people and change material conditions, anybody that wants to fight for justice, we want them in on that. But let me go back to the Democratic delegation in particular, that we should come together on a regular basis and discuss the holistic needs of our community, whether it's health care, it's access to voting, it's jobs and opportunities. It's making sure that people have dignity in their lives. And that type of dignity and good life should not only be reserved for people who have the greatest wealth, that the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class. And Marissa, I have occupied all three of those categories, and my proximity to that pain is intact. And that is why I'm such a passionate advocate and ally. When Congresswoman Barbara Jordan said what the people want is very simple. They want an America as good as is promised. I want all of my sisters and brothers and family and friends to be able to enjoy the richness of this country in their lives. And so we must come together with people who are on the justice journey to make sure that that is true. And that absolutely includes the Hispanic community or the Latino community.
All right, those are my questions. Thanks so much. We appreciate your time today. Best of luck on your campaign. Again, thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you so much for having me.
Take care.
You too.